All right, welcome back, members, and we are continuing with our guest, KIOKO, and our co-host as usual.
Can you tell him to come back?
And before we went for break, he was sharing with us some of his pillars, which included ingenuity, as you can see it on the shared screen, welfare revitalization, accelerated membership, linkage and partnership, transformative policy framework, and strategic
Lütfen dikkat. Anadolu Şehir Hava Yolları TK 7434 sefer sayılı Trabzon.
So, as I was saying, he was sharing with us some of the basic backgrounds of his life and his pillars for the position of Congress Secretary. And he pointed out something that the position of Congress Secretary is clashing with the position of CEO. And we, we need to know, ask questions about that.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Is there?
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right. Should we proceed?
Yes, indeed. Yeah. You can now take over and finish. You had how many points remaining? One?
Add 2 points.
Can you summarize them in 2
Right.
minutes so that we
Yes.
give members ample time for questions? Because
Very well.
at six we should be hosting Engineer Kaka as well.
I would want to end before 6 so that I can vote. I didn't vote for myself because of credentials, which were not there.
Let's hope the electronic measure will not happen tomorrow on Monday.
We don't expect it should be there. So if I may proceed.
Please do.
Right.
Yes.
Just to recap on where we had left, we actually discussed the Robert Secretariat, and I think that was I was able to articulate that in the interest of running the Institution of Engineers of Kenya because of the gaps that exist, and more can be said to that. So to go on to my next pillar is on transformative policy framework, and I want to reiterate that. Policy is the engine that drives corporates like IEK. And the corporates that have excelled look like IEK. The corporates that have failed, they also look like IEK. But IEK has made strides. But where we are stuck is what I'm describing now, in terms of policy. We do not have policy. And just to summarize, I would want to mention that once I'm in office, I'll be able to some of the policies I did. I think we needed some goodwill to take them forward, just like we have not launched the strategic plan. It's human resource policy for recruitment, not only of major staff, but also for the interns. It must be structured. It cannot be arbitrary. Committees and appointments policy, the conference and the workshops, seminars, symposiums, policies, and other connected policies, research policy, membership policy, which I had mentioned, okay, communication and automation policy for IEK, elections and voting policy, last and not least, the most important, finance and procurement policy. all institutions have these policies, and we must have the policies. Otherwise, we should not think of moving IEK in a big way if we want to operate without policies. That must be the first thing, on top of reviewing the constitution immediately. How an association's constitution can take a year or so bewilders me a lot, and I don't think we need to take even 3 months with it. We need to be able to move with speed. And lastly was strategic corporate governance. And in strategic corporate governance, what I am promising to deliver is governance that is anchored on the rule of law and on the principles of governance. And why I'm saying this is because everything we do, we are implementing the law. And that is part of what I would say, in that we have to promulgate the IEK constitution first, do the policies, and align ourselves with the values and principles of governance. And I think just to step back and mention something which I had forgotten is on linkages and partnerships for the Institution of Engineers through the line Ministry of Infrastructure and other related government agencies, and the Joint National Development Communications Cabinet Committee, which brings together all this, and the Council of Governors and the sectoral committees within the Council of Governors are very crucial, and it is about time that we don't just discuss national government. We are in the devolution era, and we must devolve ours, just disconstruct our mindsets and accommodate the counties. The Council of Deans of Engineering faculties is very important because it is at the universities from there where we draw our members. The Royal Academy of Engineering, the African Academy of Sciences, and the research funding organizations. And therefore, having said that, on top of the policies I've mentioned, we must have a research policy so that we are able to bring out all that which we probably would not have done without exerting ourselves and bringing on board minds to think on behalf of others for this country to prosper, because that is the only way. And I just want to say, like somebody else said, that you cannot achieve any milestones if you do not want to lose sight of the shore. The shore is where we are standing, but we have to look at the deep seas. Figuratively, what that says is that we must deconstruct our mindsets and think differently. Here, we are providing leadership. People should not confuse IEK to mean looking for the square roots, the Lagrange multipliers, and Laplace transforms. It is about leadership, knowledge-based leadership.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Finish. Yes, I can hear you. That it doesn't matter how good a runner is. Once you finish the race, you hand over the baton. And that is the reason we are here personally to take the baton. Thank you.
All right. All right.
All right.
Yes.
Italo, you have a question?
Yeah, I wanted to ask him 2 questions. You say that the position of CEO and the position of Congress Secretary are clashing, right?
Yes.
How are they clashing, and how can we change it?
Why they are clashing in the first place is in the lack of a structure which is conjoined with the global structure of IEK, so that where you have the council, you also must mention the CEO's functions, right? So that the CEO's functions are defined.
Okay.
The basic reason is that you don't have a policy framework which speaks to the secretariat. And therefore, at some point, you'll find the CEO does correspondences, and it is not clear what he should not do because it is not anchored on any policy framework. At some point, it can get very serious, and you find that probably you reduced to a level where maybe what you do is not defined from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And this is a systemic problem. It is not a personal problem. And these are the issues we wanted to fix so that we don't end up with this kind of questions, why they are clashing. Because one is not defined. The other one is defined in the constitution of IEK.
Which one is defined? Honorary Secretary.
Yes, for the Honorary Secretary is defined in the Institution of Engineers of Kenya Constitution.
Does it mean that we are doing things unconstitutionally? Because so far I understand even the electronic voting is not defined in the Constitution.
Now, that is why I spoke about, you see, a constitution is not self-operationalizing.
Yes.
That is why I spoke about the policy framework, which the problem appears that to have refused to go away because we do not have an election policy, and therefore nobody has an idea of how do you veto actions taken by people who want to manage the election. Who manages the election? What is the role of each person? And so on and so forth. There is no policy even before we go ahead and say anything else. If you don't have a policy, the only thing you can do is now to invoke is you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yes, we do not have a policy, and therefore without a policy, what you end up doing is arbitrary, right from the procurement of the service provider, right from the vetting of the candidates, right from all the way up to when an election, if there is a malfeasance of some sort during the electioneering period and there are complaints, how do you adjudicate through them? You can only sit down and say, oh, we will have ADR, we'll do this. So who causes that traction? And if it is, so it's not defined and it is a recipe for chaos. Let me tell you without prevaricating or even anything else.
So the solution is to finish
the
constitution review immediately.
Is to do the constitution review like yesterday. For reasons I don't know why it has not been there, because there was a mandate and the committee was set up there, and I think we need direction that must be provided, must come in a sense, so that we have inclusivity in this constitution. We do not end up with the constitution we see that was amended in 2015 or 16 and what. There must be a protocol for doing things. So therefore, we do the constitution immediately, and we also embark on important immediate policies so that we do not have confusion within engineering.
Policies that guide the constitution, that open up the constitution clauses.
Sorry?
You're saying the policies that open up and give more direction as per a constitution clause.
Yes, policies operational.
Right.
The IEK constitution once it has been reviewed.
All right, noted. Now I have another question. The question is this:
yes.
You said you are a dean of engineering at SECO.
Yes, SECO.
Now, what are you doing to ensure that the students in your school have a chance to know what is IEK and what is IEK? Yes. At the same time, what have you done to ensure that there is quality of education, engineering education at SECO? At the same time, remember that EBK is required to accord accreditation of those programs. At what stage are you to ensure that the programs at SECO are accredited? Because so far they are not appearing on the list at EBK's website.
Very well. Most important thing for us to start with is what we're doing to ensure that there is information about EBK and the IEK. It is to share this information as we get it from the institutions, because they share information from time to time involving our members of staff, who are also members of both IEK and the EBK, in activities of mentorship, inviting the Institution of Engineers of Kenya, because we have a calendar of events, and we must also include which universities do we want to mentor students. We cannot do all the mentorship at the same time. That is part of the information flow. And the other one would be just to ensure that we have public lectures within the university. And I've given many of them on this, and the sensitizing them every time. And you have to mention the regulator and the member association, which is the IEK, which is a very important institution, and many others.
And now, are you saying, engineer? Are you saying that your students know the existence of of IEK as a society and EBK?
Yes.
And if they know the existence of
Yes.
IEK as a society, are they registered as students at IEK?
Now, I started here by saying, and probably I may not have mentioned, because we are at the nascent stage now where we are actually responding to those questions. I may not be very elaborate on this, because other than the information itself, what we have been doing is we have a formal engagement now as we are talking with the Engineers Board of Kenya, and we were able to discuss our curriculum, and that is work in progress because of the information that we got, that before we are able to proceed to a level where we will have difficulties, we should be able to synchronize our activities together. We have looked at the curriculum. We have had a very comprehensive curriculum, and we have borrowed from other jurisdictions. So what I can only tell you in a nutshell is that the information about the EBK is a branch, although people call it ERB. So we have the information. The CEO, and we were almost saying we want to go to SECO, but that aside, the curriculum itself, I was able to look at it personally and through stakeholder involvement, industry, academia, and otherwise. And the content, I'm very happy that it will resonate with the expectations of the contemporary engineering. Thank you.
Thank you about that
Yes.
for that honest answer. So in short, you're saying that you will do your best to ensure there will be no students going on rampage as we have seen before.
We have given that undertaking. We have
Yes.
given a very solemn undertaking.
Yes.
That first of all, I'm a very strict engineer myself, and the training I've gotten, I know, is the process is as good as the end product. And we want to churn out people who are reliable.
Because my concern is we don't really want a scenario whereby we'll have more unregisterable people.
You will never get, you will not get them. I give you that undertaking because it has been discussed extensively, and we have had lots of equipment from the African Development Bank. I think some universities can come to benchmark, and I'm not really belaboring these points. And we have not only done that, we have advertised for additional staff. I think you can look.
I have seen it.
Ago.
I have seen it. I wanted to ask you. I wanted to ask you. I wanted to ask you why was it advertised and you don't share with us, because I ended up sharing it.
Not quite. Well, the dailies have a wide circulation, but I think that it is not an oversight. I was actually caught in between either putting that to the Telegram and others, and probably you find that it's not for consumption of everybody. You find very well that there was a recent opportunity which I mentioned to engineers, and I think two have been recruited.
Yes.
So in the same vein, I will not withhold information, and that's why we advertised. And I'm very happy if you have cascaded it.
I've done my part, because sometimes I look at those websites and cascade to members, because we have a Telegram where we have members and we can share that information. So that in our networks, we can know who is qualified, and we have many engineers looking for jobs, and we still, as you said, we still need engineers in academia. So it is very important we share also that with with the engineers outside there who can join academia.
And very soon, Ndolo, before you go out of we're also going to advertise for the TVET directorate.
Yes.
So that we now get on board graduate engineers who are willing to be in the academia.
Yes.
Across various diploma programs so that they can be employed there.
Please do. Please do. We have many people who are graduate engineers, and I know maybe they want to join academia, and they can also get opportunity to pursue their masters and possibly be professors in the future. Any other person with a question?
Thank you for that gesture.
Any other person with a question? Gitonga, you have a question?
I don't have a question today.
Yes, I have a question.
Please do.
Engineer, thank you very much for your presentation. I was in and out of the meeting. You are in the world of academia, and there's a general perception that engineers are not good managers, and you find most of the postgraduate students who are engineers, they end up doing either MBA and courses to do with management. Is it possible to have that embedded either in undergraduate or graduate internship program so that the issue of management can get into the curriculum? That is the first. And the second question is regarding the IEK operational framework.
Yeah.
What do you think should be done? Because from your presentation, it seems like it's not well documented or it's not well outlined. What is the steps and how will the stakeholders be involved in setting up the framework for IEK operation, the secretariat operation? Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you so much for that question. Yes, it's a widely held perception that engineers may not make the best managers. I happen to have attended a meeting in Cape Town, and we had presenters who are engineers and who are also managers. And when you look at our curriculum, and as you have just preempted the outcome of this discussion, in the sense that the deans of schools and the principals of colleges, they have a responsibility to review curriculum. And that review is part of what can ensure that we have the managerial courses infused in the curriculum in the undergraduates. I'm very much aware that in engineering, around the 4th year and the 5th year, you have management that is taught there, but it is not adequate. What we need to do, and that is the reason why IEK has a membership from the Council of Deans. And this Council of Deans, in our interactions, we are in a position to ask them, or even to help them to review the Constitution, sorry, not the Constitution, to review the curricula, and it is very easy, so that we have sufficient content to make engineers have those skills, the soft skills, for them to be able to face the world, so that we do not have economists running the show everywhere. And this is possible. The other one, leadership and management, can also be inborn, so that it is innate in you and from your background and within yourself. It is personal to individuals that you are in a position to provide leadership, management. The training only comes in to add more information to what you already appreciate. And therefore, maybe I will only say that the cure for this is for the partnership with the Council of Deans. I had already drafted an MOU and spoken to the chairman, and that needs to be taken up. We spoke with Engineer Martin Nzomo and the others, and Professor Ikua of JQuat, and we are getting on very well. And I think it should be progressed. Now, lastly is the framework of IEK and how we can have engineers involved. It is important. It is, you can hear me. It is important that during the constitutional review, which is a fairly simple exercise, it shouldn't take us all this while. is that we have clauses there talking about the role of the members themselves so that we do not just have the council having everything for themselves so that we don't have a clause for vetoing decisions of the council and even entrenching the members in a way that does not offend the operations of IEK so that we can point out the things that, because now if the policies are not done now, what will the members do? The constitution says nothing. We will just be on Twitter, WhatsApp, and so on and so forth. You do nothing. We probably at some point should threaten to have, and I'm saying this when I know very well that I'm vying, and I am likely to be the honorable secretary, that we can also have an impeachment clause for members so that we do not have impunity in our associations. I'm not saying there is, but it is imminent if it is not inherent, so that we expunge all these systemic lapses and all that. So you have asked a very good question about the framework. It is not there. It must be there. How is it going to be there? Let's be on the lookout for the IEK constitution review so that we don't say only 2 people submitted their comments. Why? Because we are busy at work. You cannot send me a PDF of the whole constitution. I will not give you an answer. Sit down, do your work, give your council member and the committee member, and have timelines which must be approved. And therefore, once that happens, we can have a way of holding to account members of the council and the secretariat who do not perform, but not a victimization of people or arbitrary leadership. So that today, this is important when it works for me. Tomorrow, if it doesn't work for me, it is objectionable. I think you get my point. Thank you.
Thank you, Engineer, for that. I have one question.
Yes.
What is your take about professional registration via research? It's a question that has been asked many times that has not been answered by many people. But you, as an
Yes.
academia, right now you're in academia at the same time. So what is your
Yes.
take on it? How viable
Well,
it is it?
Yes. What I have had this discussion before, and it started like this. Why would we not waive certain requirements for engineers who have a master's degree in engineering if they did a degree in engineering and they have proceeded to higher degrees so that we just register them as professional engineers? And I think that was a bit convoluted. It was questionable because the requirement is that you have a first degree. And I think to just go back to your question about research, because when you do a master's, you already have a research which is rigorous and probably more rigorous than the interview, PRB interviews you do at the IEK Top Plaza or even at 40 Suites. I'm only asking, why is it so difficult that if you can do a serious research in postgraduate, the higher degrees, why not sit for these interviews? But we have discussed with the University of Hertfordshire about the possibility of assisting people in the academia to be able to register through the research. It must be structured. EBK is already seized of that matter, and there is a way, there is a mechanism which is already articulated in EBK, and it is possible that you can pursue that line if it is properly vouched and found that the work that you have done in addition to your experience qualifies. As to how this is going to be operationalized, I think it is only EBK that is closer to that answer, but it has been discussed through Hertfordshire, EBK, and Engineer Grace Onyango is very competent in this, and she will be able, if this is the discussion we must bring on the table. Because if it's a research, then it should be able to qualify for something. And if there is a waiver, that must be discussed. I will want to concur you to a certain extent, but it must be qualified. What kind of a research? That discussion is there. It's not only discussion, it is a matter that has been advanced and it has been properly discussed by EBK. And if you talk to them, them today, they will be able to tell you, come and give us your background and what it is you are talking about. Then it's possible, so that we do not end up probably going against our regulations and our very existence. But I would be more passionate to pursue that research. But it is something that must be discussed, and the discussion is already been concluded. I'm saying it because we had a discussion with IBK recently, and we had those cases, and they were advised that yes, you can come on board and present, do a presentation. We see what it is that we are talking about.
Is the policy now out about it? Because actually we can talk about these things, but we need the policy to be out on that particular clause, registration by research.
As being members,
Yes.
being members of IEK, we must sit down and do a serious draft, a concept note that speaks to what now we are discussing here, so that we find out, and these things are done very well if people sit down and exert themselves, so that they are not inconsistent with the regulations and the act, and it will be done. So that is something which ABK needs to be assisted.
Noted. Noted. Thank you. Gitonga, you have one
Yes,
question?
all right.
Because we need to change again to an host Engineer Okaka.
Yes. There's a question I have, Engineer, regarding the new branches or the new specialization which are coming up, like aeronautical engineering. Yesterday in presidential discussion, somebody is saying that, or somewhere that you have experts from outside the country who can come and interview these aeronautical instrumentation or computer engineers.
Yes.
My question is, one of the conditions for you to get to prepare a report and interview, you must work under a registered engineer. I find it quite contradictory for IEK to say they are going to get somebody to come for the interview, while we don't have registered aeronautical engineers or computer engineers locally. How are we going to bridge that gap? The other question, just the final one. Okay. When you are elected as the honorary secretary, you'll be in charge of most of communication. Personally, yes. I think IEK is not performing quite well on that area. How will you handle communication, especially to the stakeholders and to the members?
Thank you, Gitonga.
For PEs and the Gs, we're talking about the emerging degree programs, qualifications on aerospace, aeronautical. Of course, we had the issues with the chemical, it was resolved, and so on and so forth. And the fact that for somebody to qualify to sit for the interview, they must have worked under a professional engineer. The question that was posed to Engineer Jen Mudulili and Engineer Okaka, I think it came too soon for them. What was said in that meeting is the possibility of what should happen, and the fact that nobody raised an issue of one case where this was not possible meant that, that the question was fully responded to. What I want to say here, just like it has happened with mechatronics, we should be able to define, and this is what I was talking about membership policy. You know, these questions go all the way back to membership policy. That is where we have everything. But let me try to attempt to answer this, is that while it is possible to pay air ticket and the per diems for somebody to come and sit and interview somebody, it should also be noted that the person being interviewed must have been supervised. And that's what you are saying. So that now the homegrown solution will be to unbundle this degree program that was done by this candidate and where it fits. What is the capacity locally, and so that therefore, even as we ask somebody to come on board, is it possible that wherever he was being supervised, it is something that resonates very well with the expectations of the interviews? Was he therefore adequately supervised for this person to come? If the answer is no, then it means the person will not be admissible for an interview. So that now, if we agree, like mechatronics, if it is electrical, mechanical, then we are able to say, okay, fine, this is what will happen. Membership policy will respond to that question. And that is the reason why during the implementation of policies, we have stakeholder consultative meeting so that we agree on the things that we may not agree on webinar, so that we don't disenfranchise and disadvantage our engineers for no apparent reason, for lack of a policy and for lack of an understanding. Because if that person is interviewed and was never actually overseen by another engineer, then it means that we can go on and continue propagating things that are not anchored on law. And I think the other one was on communication, because the area I'm just leaving is a bit hazy, because for you to call somebody, somebody must have been trained. But what the engineer should have said is that in the same vein, this engineer who is coming from offshores must have also been paid for to come and occasionally supervise these engineers. And for you to benefit from economy of scale, you should now define how many of those we have. That is where the MOU with the Council of Deans comes. So that now, as he comes, there are so many other people being supervised by him, just like it happens in attachments. And this is possible. It can be done under my leadership. Communications goes back again to the policy. I said we must have a communications and automation policy. The communication says who writes which documents, who says what, who communicates to who, what is the frequency, and therefore, what kind of communication do we expect from members? So that, and therefore, do we have the capacity within our existing structure? Do we have the right workforce with the right skill sets? And these problems are addressed in a policy. People don't like to exert themselves and think through, call stakeholders and get answers at once. We are going to have a solution because I have time for all that. I have done it before. I have done policies in the government. I have done the policies at the university. And I have a passion for that. And that is my answer. And I think you will believe in me when I tell you that, because as I started by telling you that I started at St. Joseph Seminary and I'm a confirmed Catholic, and therefore I wouldn't want to be here lying. Thank you.
Thank you, engineer, for that. And I think our time is running out because we need to host Engineer Kaka. So I would like at this point and juncture
Yes,
to give you opportunity to give a parting shot and a pitch.
Correct. I won't say much. I must appreciate your time. I will not take it for granted because time is always lacking. And I know you have had to squeeze yourself wherever you are. And this is for the benefit of IEK and for posterity. And they will never be compensated or even compensated enough for helping humanity. I just wanted to say that the institution of engineers needs to have a meeting of minds for people to sit down and chart the way forward and to say what it is that is a priority to us, so that we have a proper management of the institution, we have proper use of resources that we have proper internal and external audits. The council should not be doing the work of the secretariat, and the secretariat should not be doing the work of the council. For whatever reasons we may not want to discuss here, we should be able to forge ahead, okay? And then I think so that we have a proper horizon. When I am elected the honorary secretary, I'll be able to put on the table all the things you've discussed, give timelines, push the agenda to the council, and even as we review the constitution, invite engineers to be very vigilant so that we have an all-inclusive constitution which have proper safeguards for all the stakeholders, most of all being the engineers themselves, because they are the employers. So that we stop complaining, if I pay 5,000, where does it go? I mean, I don't get any benefits, but I get benefit from EBK. And so that we pull in the same direction, avoid court cases like we have seen before. There was a court appeal which was determined without even the involvement of IEK, whilst the council was aware, and the EBK was crying that we needed to enjoin IEK. The matter was heard. We are waiting to hear whether Section 16 is going to be removed. from the Act of Engineers Act, so that members no longer have to be corporate members of IEK for them to be professional engineers. Those are some of the things, and we must attach premiums to these small things and not per diem to go to Mombasa or elsewhere.
One minute.
So that is very important to mention here, so that when we see IEK, we see an opportunity to work for engineers, and so that when we look at our bank balances today, it should be about 600 million. Our investments. I'm told the buildings that we had rented out there, nobody is occupying it, and therefore it is incurring losses for several months on end. We bought land somewhere, and that land has already been recalled by the court. And it appears it could go into the way of the claimant who said the land belongs to them. And these are the things we have to have, so that we do not have the council and the secretary bogged down by workload, which is not defined who does what. This is the only way to go forward, and this is the way to grow this country through infrastructure development. But most of all, we have to put our house in order. And that is my parting shot. Thank you.
Thank you, engineer. Wonderful pitch, and we wish you well. We will end this call and start next call with engineer Okaka.
Thank you very much. And all the best.
We wish you all the best, engineer. Thank
Cheers.
you, Diana.
All the best. Yeah, thank you, Engineer KIOKO, for your time this evening. I know you wanted to leave earlier, but it was a very engaging talk.
Yeah.
And thank you, everyone, for joining. So in a while, we'll be joined by Engineer Okaka. So just log in and log out and log in again.
Shukran.
Thank you. Wishing you
all right.